The rescue of a missing mother led to the arrest of a repeat offender, a man who had been abducting women for over a decade, where he would be imprisoned, then released on parole, only to continue this cycle every time. This is the story of the many survivors of William Monzingo, women who had to watch as their monster walked free over and over again. You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Brooke Makenna, and today's case is of a very recent survivor, and she has made it her mission to put her face out there to really have her story be told. And so I'm so excited that I came across it and I can tell you guys, because she even has done an interview in her own words about what she experienced and how she wants, the world to react, and how she wants girls to not act like she did. And she actually has a GoFundMe that has been set up by her mother to support her healing physically and mentally, and I will link that down below for you. Even if you can't support monetarily, I would love if you could go and leave a sweet comment, maybe say justice for Chloe, and just be very, very kind and supportive through this time. Now a word from our sponsor, Dave. Dave is going to be a lifesaver for those of us who spent way too much over the holidays. And you're not alone, because this is the first year I hosted Christmas and I had no idea how much I would be spending. I definitely underestimated. But Dave is a banking app that advances you money with no interest to settle up later. Not to mention, you avoid the overdraft fees of a normal bank account. Sometimes finances can feel like this really lonely solo problem, but with Dave Banking Extra Cash, you can actually go to them in one of your pinches. Even if it's for groceries, for gas, you can get what you need between your paychecks. I thought this was the perfect time to bring this app to you, and I definitely wish I had Dave for when I had my first big girl job, because not only do they do all of that, they also have fee-free goal tracking as well as ways to find side hustles. But since we know now, you can download Dave and you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes with no credit checks and no late fees. So you can download at dave.com/Brooke Mckenna, and for terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees do apply, and banking services are provided by Evolve, member FDIC. Hope this helps some of you guys out there. Now let's get back to the story. It was 2023 in Ohio, and on October 12th, a 23-year-old named Chloe Jones went missing from her hometown of Chardon. Now, Chloe had a 4-year-old son at the time who was her everything. But only days later, on October 16th, 2023, investigators would receive a call from a homeowner at the Kenmore neighborhood residence at 11th Street Northwest in Akron, Ohio. This man who owned this home stated that around 1 a.m. he had gone into his unattached garage to find a dolly in order to move his washing machine and replace it. So he was trying to do so when he found a man and woman inside. So the homeowner had called 911, claiming that he did not know how long that they had been there. So the Akron police arrived at the home around 9:15 in the morning, and once they were shown the garage by the homeowner, they were finding that it was locked from the inside. And so in the body cam footage that has been released, the homeowner explained further that it was a husband and wife who were the homeowners, and they lived with their elderly parents who were often up so late, which is why he was up at 1 in the morning changing out the washing machine. They were just always up at odd hours. And so when he was in there reaching for this dolly, he heard "bro" from a male voice. Now, this man was talking to him, and he came outside to talk to him. And that is when the homeowner would hear a voice coming from the ceiling saying, "Can I come out now?" This was a female voice. Now, the homeowner said that he went into the garage and heard the voice coming from the attic, so he decided to climb up this ladder that he had to see what was going on. And this woman allegedly said to him, "I'm so scared, I don't know what to do." The homeowner then gave her a big hug and told her that he would get her back home. However, the homeowners waited quite some time to actually call 911, because they had found them around 1 a.m. and the police had come around 9 a.m. and that wasn't just a delay by the police department. You see, the homeowners were worried about the safety of everyone inside the home. They said that the man wasn't in his right state of mind, so they didn't want to make him panicky. But there was also another reason they put off calling 911, and that was the fact that they needed to warn the police about this man.
You know he's in there for a fact?
I know for a fact.
You can kick your door. You can kick it in.
I swear to God. Go ahead. This girl, I don't know what's wrong with this girl.
Oh, there's a girl in there with him?
Yes, I told them this only. I told them this. There's a girl in there. She's very small and slim. My husband said he didn't really get a good look at her. She can't see out of her eyes.
Okay.
So this is why I'm nervous.
Joe's got a pry bar.
There's a split bar in there.
That'd work.
She gave us permission to damage.
Yeah, on BWC.
Yeah.
I say we're going through the roof, through the top. You have shingles.
So when the Akron police finally arrived, they positioned themselves outside and yelled for this man to come out with his hands empty. And so they all raised their guns, waiting for this man to show himself. But eventually, with no response, they decided to break down the garage door. They pried it open.
William, this is Akron Police Department. This is your last chance. Come out now with your hands up, or we'll be sending the canine in to apprehend you. You will get bit by the dog. William, last chance.
Akron Police, better come out.
Come out now with your hands up.
Coming?
No.
William, come out now, Akron Police.
There's a lot of shit in the way.
Come out.
Come out now.
Nothing in your hand.
Nothing in your hands.
Now.
You're bit, buddy.
Coming out or not?
Can you see him?
Get out here now.
Come out now. Come out now.
Bro, you're gonna get fucked up in a second. You better come right the fuck out now. Now.
He's up in the attic.
Come out.
Keep going. No, I don't see him.
Keep everything out of your hands.
He's in the attic. He's in the attic. He's
Keep
coming.
everything out of your hands.
All the way. Hey,
Take your face that way.
Just keep coming. Watch your step. Right there. You get that?
There's a female in there.
Come on out here.
He was placed in handcuffs immediately, and then the police rushed into this cold garage and witnessed a woman slowly crawling down that ladder from the attic. And this was a small hole in the ceiling she was coming from, and when an officer, it was kind of dark in there, so an officer shined the flashlight on her, and it appears as though she was wearing torn and dirty clothing.
Okay, what do you need to get down? Let me get this ladder, okay?
But as they neared her, the flashlight would illuminate her face, and it would show a very swollen face with both eyes blackened beyond belief, and one of them was swelled shut.
Oh my God. There's no one else up there?
Where do you live at here? Thompson? How far away is that?
Like 30 minutes, like close to Chardon.
Why don't you have a seat right there?
When the woman realized that there were officers in front of her, that she was being rescued, she actually asked them, "Do you guys have water or anything?"
You probably want to know. Yeah, probably have. Where's she at? Up there also?
Yeah. Why don't you just sit down there?
You guys have water.
We'll get you some stuff here.
Car number 12.
I'll go grab me a bottle of water. Is there any weapons up there here?
Is there any weapons or anything up there?
But as the man outside was being arrested, he saw this woman coming out of the garage, and he ended up yelling out, "I love you, Chloe." She did not respond. So the medics at the scene treated this woman, and she was then rushed to the nearest hospital. She had some pretty severe injuries. They were actually life-threatening, and so she was identified at this time as the missing Chloe Jones. However, just looking at her, investigators knew that she had been through something horrific in those 4 days. And so Chloe actually called her mother, Jessie, from the hospital to tell her what had happened and inform her mother that she had been abducted. Now, the man police arrested and booked turned out to be 33-year-old William Mazingo, and he was charged with felonious assault, unlawful restraint, kidnapping, abduction, parole violation, and escape. He was held on $100,000 bond in Summit County Jail.
Step on up there.
sir.
Hold on. Why don't you give one for a minute? Chloe? Chloe?
Now, the case report filed by the Akron Police Department stated that William was with the victim inside the garage and caused serious harm to Chloe. But it turned out the homeowners of this garage actually knew the man they found in the garage, this William man. The homeowners had eventually claimed that they were once friendly with William, but had cut off all contact about a month prior. They believe he most likely found their garage unlocked because their elderly parents would go out there and forget to lock the door. However, they didn't know how long that he was out there with Chloe, and they weren't sure that it could have been for those full 4 days unless they were coming in late at night after they had already went to the home and then leaving really early in the morning. But because they already knew this man, when the homeowner's wife actually ended up calling the police, she was the one that called 911 eventually, she told them that she needed to warn the police before they came there.
About what?
Well, he is a violent offender.
She informed dispatch that he used to live in their home and he was paroled at one time at their home before he was sent back to jail.
That friend is in our garage right now. There's a female with him. My husband said from what he could see of her, because it was dark in the garage, her face is pretty beat up.
She said that William had escaped from a community correctional facility about 6 weeks ago. But she also claimed that the victim, the woman that was found, Chloe, she had met on more than 3 occasions with William. But Akron police reported that the victim and the kidnapper were only acquaintances and that William had offered her a ride home around 4 days prior when she went missing, and instead he had no intention of taking her home and took her to this garage where he abducted her. But it turned out that this wasn't William's first kidnapping charge. In fact, in the last decade, he had been imprisoned around 3 times for kidnapping. However, there have been many survivors of this man that I have found throughout the years, some that were rescued pretty early on. So let's get into the many survivors of William Mozingo. You see, back in 2011, which would have been 13 years prior to Chloe's abduction, William was charged with kidnapping in Adams County. This was around 4 hours from Akron, but still in the Ohio state. He pled guilty to abduction and was sentenced to 3 years in prison and then 3 years parole once he got out. So he was released on parole in 2013. But only 7 months later, while still on parole, in June of 2014, he was found guilty of another abduction and was sentenced to 9 months in prison. He was also going to serve 862 days due to the violation of his prior parole. And while serving time for this in 2015, he appealed the parole violation, claiming that they failed to properly advise him of the consequences of violating that parole during his first abduction conviction. Thankfully, this was denied, so he had to serve that time. By 2017, he had been released from prison once again, and he had attempted another abduction. You see, there was a Walmart where an off-duty police officer actually worked on his off time, and this was in Canton, Ohio, where that July 2017, there was a woman who would flee to the Walmart bathroom, call police, and say that there was a man who was holding her at knife point, and she had actually escaped by telling him she needed to go to the bathroom, and that is where she used her phone to call for help. So this police officer ended up arresting William and took him into custody. Now, what I didn't see talked about in many articles is the actual abduction that happened in 2017, and this was after that woman in Walmart escaped. There was an actual abduction in Stark County, which was 4 hours from the first kidnapping in Adams County, and this is the first survivor that we actually have the name of. Mackenzie Maston has been very open about how she survived this man. She was held captive for 3 days. She said it was the scariest experience of her life. Mackenzie would say that she was actually held captive with William's younger brother. They were both beaten and threatened, and they were told that basically they wouldn't ever be able to see their loved ones again. She was told that he would break her jaw if she cried or tried to yell for help. William told both Mackenzie and his own brother that they weren't going home and locked them in a room. When the police rescued them, Mackenzie said that William actually screamed at her that he would finish what he started. And so Mackenzie actually took William's younger brother into her care for a while because she didn't want to leave him in that environment where William knew where he was. And so she took him in for a while. And for this, William was sentenced to 18 months and he was placed on parole on December 24th. 2018. Only 4 months after his release on parole, in April of 2019, he was charged again, also in Stark County, with charges of aggravated menacing. This was due to a woman who is believed to be William's ex-girlfriend that claimed that she was held hostage by him. She was 29 years old. She was beaten and held against her will at knife point for 4 days. Now, she had been found on the side of the road topless, and she had severe head trauma. She was highly intoxicated, and they believed that she had escaped and had found her way to the road. She told the police, though, that William and one of his relatives had taken her against her will and beat her and then dumped her there. Now, in this case, investigators didn't have to look far for William and his relative because they were actually dropped off at the sheriff's department where they were arrested due to a driver who had picked them up on that very road where the victim was found and who they had asked for a ride. They wanted to get out of town, but the driver ended up taking them to the sheriff's department. Now, William was charged with felonious assault, aggravated trespass, and domestic violence, and it's not believed his relative was charged with anything, but he served 18 months before he was once again released on parole. Now, although criminals on parole are supposed to be observed, they're supposed to be watched and made sure that they're not continuing this cycle, it seems as though no one had William on their radar at all. Because in 2022, he was then sent to a prison at Lorraine Correctional for drug possession. He was then released on probation once again in April of 2023. And 6 months later, while still being on parole for this, that is when he abducted Chloe. It's amazing how many times this man had gotten away with abduction. Although he served some time, he was always released and he always did it again. It was no surprise to anyone when he was back in for these same exact charges. And yet they did nothing about it. So meanwhile, while William was being booked, Chloe's mother, Jessie, would say that her daughter was still in the hospital. Jessie would tell News 5 that Chloe was in the ICU with facial fractures, a brain bleed, a broken arm, broken fingers, and she would say that during the 4 days that Chloe had been abducted, she had told her mother she had been tied up. She had been doused in gasoline, threatened to be lit on fire. She was beaten from head to toe with a baseball bat and sometimes fists, and she was held at knife point dozens of times, where she was threatened that he would slit her throat.
He would cuddle her in between beatings.
She wasn't given bathroom breaks at all and was forced to urinate on herself, and then she was choked multiple times while being told that if she passed out, he would cut her throat. He wanted her to be aware of everything that he was doing to her. Now, Chloe's mother was very outspoken, but she said that Chloe wasn't comfortable yet speaking on what had happened to her on camera, but that what led to this was that her daughter Chloe had a conversation with William online. They were going to hang out, and then she got a ride to his place where he ended up taking her phone and wouldn't let her leave. Around a week later, by October 23rd, Chloe Jones was released from the hospital and she was ready to tell her story. She decided to go to Fox 8 News and give them an interview. She was still bruised from head to toe. She was wearing a hoodie to protect her head, which was still very much injured. And so she told Fox 8,
It was petrifying. You can see my face. It's, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. And I want to tell, like, the young girls from, across America, like, it's not safe to get in, cars with people you don't know or meet up with friends through friends. It was terrifying, like, being in fear for your life, like, countless of times. Times I can't even count of, like, how many times he's threatened my life.
He has been convicted 3 times for the exact same offenses, and he was allowed to reoffend over and over. And
you don't deserve to, get to live life the way normal people should. And I hope that I hope that there is something that will come to light for him.
She explained that she thought that William was harmless, so she accepted this ride from him, but she said that for the next 4 days, the abuse was nonstop. And while doing that, her abductor would tell her that she would never see her child again, because if you remember, Chloe has a 4-year-old son. But Chloe said her son was what was keeping her alive.
What got you through?
My son did. I thought about him every day. I just saw his little face in my head every day.
But she had also claimed that she had never been to that residence before. She had never seen the homeowners, who claimed that they had seen her with William around 3 times before. So it makes many question, why would the homeowners say this? Did they see victims, other victims of William's that looked like Chloe, and that's who they believed that they were seeing in the garage as well? But Mackenzie Maston, the only other survivor who has been named of William Mazingo, spoke out to Nation News about her own story.
During those 3 days, he had us locked up in a room with a knife. He kept saying that we weren't going to be able to go back home to my parents. I kept begging him to just let me go home to my mom and dad. At one point, he even took a fan cord out of the stand and wrapped a fan cord around his own brother's neck and was choking him and beating him in the head and laughing till he was unconscious. He would continuously beat on us. He gave me, my eyes were all blacked out and swollen from him doing that to us. He would put a knife to our throat. He was throwing and smashing beer bottles at the wall by our heads.
So she planned to give evidence at Chloe's trial to hopefully put him behind bars for good.
My heart and my prayers go out to Chloe and her family for what she had to go through, and I just want her to know that she's not alone in this and that she's not the only one that he did this to. Just hope that he gets what he deserves and that they will learn their lesson this time and not let him walk on the streets and hurt another woman again.
Now, like I said, a GoFundMe has been created for Chloe for medical expenses, and her mother, Jessie, wrote on that GoFundMe thoughts about her daughter's abductor. So I wanted to read that to you because I think it's very insightful. She said, "My daughter is covered in massive bruises the size of my hand all over her body, and part of her face is paralyzed. The worst of it is the emotional damage that will far outlast the physical injuries. My daughter never thought she was getting out of that shed. She succumbed to accepting her death. She will never be the same. Her life as she knew it is over."
I am angry. This is not acceptable.
She went on to say there is no reason why this man should have been on the streets. He has proven time and time again that he will offend again. They knew he was going to take another victim, and the justice system did nothing to prevent it. He only waited 4 months between being released from prison after his second victim to take another one. I hold our justice system accountable. This is not acceptable. I will not rest until there are actual changes made. I'm going to scream from the rooftops until then. Hearing this is one of the main reasons I wanted to cover this story. It was quite popular at the beginning when this woman was found, but a lot of people didn't go into the many survivors of William, the many abductions, and the many releases where he was just sent out on the streets to do the same thing over again. And so for Chloe, for every single victim and survivor, this case needs to have attention. We need to make sure that he does not get released once again. Because a month after the rescue in November of 2023, William had his arraignment at Summit County Court where he pled not guilty. But he is scheduled to return to court for his pre-trial this month, January 2024. So I really wanted to get this out so we can all be paying attention to this court case and know if this man is released once again. But let's all send Chloe and all of the other survivors support in finally getting justice from this man. I just would love to see comments saying justice for Chloe, justice for all the survivors on here and on her GoFundMe. And I just really want to support all of these women who have not only been in horrific situations, but then had to watch it happen over and over again to other people, even though they were speaking out and trying to keep others safe. Do you believe that William Mazingo will be put away for a long time during the trial of Chloe Jones? Or will he be quickly released, just like every other time since 2011? I don't think just because he had left survivors and he didn't actually murder them, that he should just be so quickly let out of prison. This repeat offender, this serial kidnapper, needs to be locked up. It's quite infuriating that it took so many survivors going through the same exact thing, speaking out about it, not being heard, for us to finally even know about this man at all. This repeat offender, this serial kidnapper, who didn't even go very far. He stayed in Ohio. He stuck to the same pattern of abduction. From what it sounds like, he did a lot of the same horrific things to each woman. It's been a few months now since Chloe was rescued, so I just really hope that she is doing amazing, that she is healing physically and mentally, and that she is just surrounded by so much love, surrounded by her son, and that she truly is in a good mindset, because what she has done for all of these survivors before her is so incredible. The fact that she was willing to speak out while she still had the bruises from her kidnapper on her face, it's inspiring. It's absolutely incredible, and all I hope is that something is finally done. Do not let this man do the same thing again. So don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay, bye. And also, the GoFundMe for Chloe will be linked down below.